I don't know how you ended up here, but I'm glad you're here. And would you look at this beautiful dresser I found for $10 in the thrift store? It was supposed to be a restoration project, but I discovered something that I somehow overlooked in the thrift store that day. The discovery forced me to completely repurpose this old dresser and transform it into something unrecognizable. And it's true, perhaps against my better judgment, I hauled this sad painted dresser 2,000 miles across the country just to finally complete this project. What's ironic about this story is that at the time, the inspiration for this makeover was still sitting 1,000 miles away in the state of Virginia. These are the first few steps of most of my refinishing projects. First the disassembly, then the satisfying process of removing all the layers of paint. I have found that there's a unique and profound satisfaction in peeling back the layers of paint from old furniture. It's a process that feels almost like unearthing a hidden treasure. During this process, each scrape of the blade reveals a glimpse of the beautiful wood grain beneath, and its patterns and imperfections help tell the stories of bygone eras. The bright peeling colors of the paint that mask the beauty of this piece will slowly be replaced by the natural character of the wood. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't look over this dresser in detail the day I purchased it from the thrift store. I was in a hurry, and with just one glimpse, I was convinced this was walnut hiding under the layers of paint, potentially making this a satisfying transformation project. But I was wrong. I'll remove some of the paint with a chemical stripper, and these steps are rather straightforward. Apply the finish remover with a chip brush, then scrape the paint off after about 30 minutes. If you think about it, there must be at least one thing in your life that you tried for the first time and you failed miserably. Very few people are actually naturally good at something the first time they try it. Skills take time to develop. Have you ever started a project and you had big plans for it, but those plans never really developed the way you had imagined? This dresser is a good example for me. I probably should have scrapped it the moment I discovered it was cheap and poor quality. But sometimes you become emotionally attached to something for reasons you can't always explain. So much that you continue coming back to it. You spend more time, effort, and money hoping it will eventually turn into something that will last and you're truly proud of. At this point, I was still determined to refinish this dresser the way I'd originally imagined, so I ordered these solid walnut drawer pulls to replace the originals that were crumbling apart and beyond repair. I was listening to someone recently who shared a thought that I'll summarize as it relates to my work. The better we become with a certain skill, the more we are actually at risk of naivety, or lack of wisdom or judgment in this case. We risk looking at all distressed pieces thinking we can fix all of them. We then start with confidence and high hopes, only to reach a fork in the road where we either keep pushing on or make the difficult decision to change directions altogether. I didn't know it at the time, but I was about to reach that fork in the road for this project. I created this fantasy where, because of my own foolish mistakes, I tried to shift the blame, thinking who would even build such a cheap piece of furniture like this that would easily fail, instead of taking responsibility and thinking about what it was that I did wrong in the first place. I finally reached the fork in the road that I spoke of. Out of frustration, I considered hauling this trash furniture to the curb, but once I accepted responsibility for my poor judgment, I wanted to at least find some good in this situation, so I decided to change directions altogether and repurpose this dresser for my own workshop. And after months of going back and forth with this project, the inspiration piece was now well within reach. So now begins the repairs and much needed transformation of this old dresser in order to repurpose it. When I started this channel a few years ago, I had passion and some creativity, but I didn't know much about filmmaking, editing, or even the woodworking and furniture restoration skills required to make good content, and it was difficult to find helpful resources online. I wish I had discovered Skillshare sooner. Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes led by industry experts across film, illustration, design, freelance, productivity, and more. Skillshare can help you take your career, skills, hobbies, passions, or side hustles to the next level. I've been using Skillshare for several years, and if you've seen my channel develop over the years, you may see how I've especially benefited from courses about filming, editing, and storytelling. I even recently learned how to film more detailed cinematic shots using just my smartphone. Skillshare's online video courses have also taught me everything from advanced woodworking techniques to discovering new ways to market my business on social media. With expert instructors sharing practical tips, I was able to grow my skills at my own pace. Skillshare has helped me transform my hobby into a business, and now with every furniture project, I can focus more on the stories and less on the other parts of the business that would slow me down. Whether you're starting a new venture or leveling up your skills, Skillshare can help you unlock your potential. The first 500 people to use my link in the video description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So get started today, and thank you Skillshare for sponsoring this video. I spent more time in this video showing the paint removal process with various detailed scrapers. Removing all these layers is the first step, often the most important and most difficult, but if this is what's required for healing and a transformation, then let it begin. It wasn't really until I started sanding this dresser that I realized this wood species is much different than the desirable walnut I had imagined. Maybe it's elm, poplar, or something else. Let me know your thoughts. Regardless, it was the first of many disappointments, and another disappointment was discovering how fragile the infrastructure of this dresser actually was. Really, it's just a few small strips of lumber covered with sheets of thin veneered panels. So I went to the Habitat store searching for some trim pieces that would not only make this dresser more visually appealing, but also help reinforce it. I I recently drove 1,000 miles from Wisconsin to the East Coast, as I often do, and this time I had room for this sad little dresser and decided to continue working on it in a local community workspace. For around $60 a month, this community workspace is a great option to learn new skills without spending thousands of dollars on adequate tools. Because others were working in the space at the time, I didn't feel it was safe to film this next step, but I used a dovetail router bit to carefully divide each drawer front to make these look more like flat file drawers. I suppose I could have made true flat file drawers, but I need the larger drawers to organize some of my tools in the shop. Because I'm trying to mimic a true antique flat file cabinet that you'll see in my shop, I'll use this trim to add a base, and this will also add stability to the entire dresser. You can now get a much better look to see just how little is actually holding the body of this dresser together. I'm grateful I had access to planers and jointers, making these steps much easier. However, this still took me 2 attempts, probably for no other reason than that this seems to fit the theme of this entire story. I then drove 1,000 miles home to Wisconsin and spent the next several days sanding and adding trim to this piece in between other projects. Now that I'm back home in my own workshop, I have a basic chop saw that might be sufficient for cutting decent miters for this oak trim, but this has now become a passion project, and I wanted to use something I've been hanging on to for a while. The solid oak side trim will help give this piece more depth and also continue to reinforce it for daily use. You're going to see the larger flat file cabinet I'm attempting to mimic in this video. However, I'll save the details for that very special restoration story for the coming months. This old dresser will require 20 drawer pulls, and these are what I had in stock, so I'll measure everything out and drill the pilot holes for the screws. I considered staining this newly transformed piece to make it more uniform, since there are now several different wood species, but when I reached this final step, I decided that I really liked the look of the natural grain patterns and various wood species, so I'll thin out some clear shellac with denatured alcohol and apply several coats evenly with a brush. Over the years, this furniture channel has slowly developed, and today these videos are no longer just about the furniture projects, and I make no apologies for that. They have become an outlet for me to share a variety of life experiences, not to bring attention to myself, but hopefully to shed light on your own experiences, and to offer hope and encouragement. My work will never be the best. In fact, my #1 priority with each video is to get you, the viewer, immersed in the project or the story, so that for a brief moment you feel what I am feeling, or at least be inspired to take on a challenge you've been considering for a long time. If I can do that, then regardless of the views, I'll consider my work a success. This completed project will now be used daily in my workshop, and for me, the special memories associated will forever be priceless. My name is Barry, and thank you for joining me. Goodbye for now.